people of the internet. Welcome back to another video. It is I, Don Thomas, back in here with another one. As always, folks, the likes, the comments, the subscribes are all greatly appreciated. Thank you so much for the support on this channel. Without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into today's topic, folks. Got a video pulled up here. It comes from CNN, in which they have a segment on the social media banishment out there in Australia. Of course, they titled the video, "Millions of Australian Children Just Lost Social Media. What is Happening?" Of course, I'll be sure to share my thoughts. I encourage you guys to share your thoughts down in the comment section below. Let's get into it.
Well, beginning today, kids under the age of 16 in Australia are being forced off social media platforms like TikTok and Instagram. Here's the complete list. Australia's ban for young users went into effect a few hours ago.
Pause that real quick. So Australia bans, of course, as you guys just heard, Australia bans for children 16 and younger. No Facebook, no Threads, no Twitter, no Snapchat, no Kick, Twitch, all the major ones, basically. If you are 16 years old or younger, you cannot be on these platforms in Australia. Very interesting. Let's watch a little bit more.
To set a minimum age for the legal access to top popular platforms.
Lawmakers say they want to protect children's well-being, and their efforts are backed by research showing that too much screen time does more harm than good. Other countries are expected to bring in their own regulations on social media in the near future. CNN's Angus Watson is in Sydney following more reaction and a lawsuit challenging this massive cultural change for Australia.
Teenagers Noah and Macy are taking their government to court in a fight to stay on social media.
Taking away how we communicate to the world. This is how we do it. It's the modern day. It's social media.
From Wednesday, Australia will enforce a world-first law banning children under 16 from many of the biggest platforms. Supported by a freedom advocacy group, Macy and Noah's case asserts a right to political communication. The High Court has agreed to hear it next year.
So what will you lose when social media is taken away from you?
Well, we will lose connections, but we will lose our democracy. This law is saying that democracy begins at 16, which is condescending and it's incorrect.
Listen, there are definitely negatives on social media. I'm not denying that. I completely agree. We're saying that getting rid of the kids is not the solution. We didn't do anything wrong.
The government says it has acted to protect children from potentially harmful content, harmful people, and addictive algorithms.
And there are these powerful, harmful, deceptive design features that even adults are powerless to fight against, like autoplay and endless scroll and snap streaks. So what chance do our children have?
Under the new law, young social media users won't be punished for being on age-restricted apps, nor will their parents. Instead, Australia is requiring tech companies to take reasonable steps to keep under 16s off their platforms and threatening fines in the tens of millions of dollars.
Damn.
Tech companies say they are already building safer systems.
Pause right there. So there you heard the gist of it, folks. Again, out there in Australia, if you are the age 16 or younger, you will be banned. The ban is now in effect of you being removed from those platforms, not being able to access those platforms. And I'm glad they actually took some time to, as we usually do, we like to dissect both sides of the argument. On one side, we all know, we're all well aware, myself and I'm sure you guys as well too, of the dangers of social media. The effects of social media on self-esteem, on the psyche, on just your goals and ambition. In most parts, it is just a waste of time, endless scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. The pros and cons of social media as a whole, none of us, or all of us, I should say, are aware of indeed those pros and cons, right? So on that point, you do know that social media, especially for that age group, young kids, of course, 16 and younger is fairly young, very impressionable as well too. We know that there's no bounds when it comes to social media and internet usage, right? There's nowadays, of course, there's everything under the sun is able to be viewed by anyone with an account on social media. So we do know the dangers. On the flip of that, of course, you did hear the young lads out there in Australia, the young gentleman and the young lady, saying that this is taking away, this is impeding on their democracy, right? Their ability to connect, their ability to, learn and create, or whatever the case is. Of course, you guys know, being a content creator, and even just like consuming information, right? Whether it be for entertainment purposes or education purposes, we do know all of that stuff does indeed happen on these major platforms. So my question that I am pondering on, and of course I extend it to you as well too, is figuring what the middle ground is. What is the middle ground? What can be done to see to it that, both parties are at least safe and taken into consideration? What is the middle ground of this? Or do you agree with this? Me personally, initially hearing this, I thought this was a phenomenal idea. Initially hearing this news, specifically for that demographic, again, 16 and younger, I think is very impressionable ages. I feel like there's a lot of situations in certain households. Some people can easily say, oh, well, it should come down to the parents. Parents should be able to control their children. And I don't really necessarily like that excuse because, yeah, there is a part that parents do play in, purchasing of these devices, whether it be the iPhones or the iPads or the cases, and the screen time, the amount of time that your children are spending on these devices. Yes, I do agree that a portion of the blame or the accountability should be held on parents, but parents can't be everywhere all the time monitoring their children 24/7, even when their kids go to school and whatever the case is, when it's, lights out or the case is. Like, it's a lot to put on the parents as a whole to expect the parents to be on top of their children's activities 24/7 when it comes to these devices. So I think that's a stretch in itself. I also think that, again, the things that you could come across on social media, I think parents do fear that their children may grow up way too fast being exposed to certain things, being exposed to certain content on social media that parents would maybe like to ease their children into, or maybe have a formal conversation about certain things before they come across these things, before children come across these things online on their own without any real proper and safe context, right? Of course, there's, again, everything under the sun is easily accessible on the internet. So it makes you wonder if you want your, again, 16 or younger child to be exposed to certain things on the internet because they have an account on certain social media platforms, right? So what is the middle ground? What is the middle ground? What needs to be done to see to it that that demographic can still be safe on social media, can still, maybe not be exposed to all of the atrocities of the internet and the people. Let's not forget about the creeps out there in the world as well, too. If people who, for some sick reason, have a fascination with children of that age bracket, 16 and younger. You got to take all those things into consideration. Again, the internet seems to be the wild, wild west. These chat rooms and the comment section of certain social media platforms are very toxic places. And the DMs, being able to slide in people's DMs and send and receive unsolicited photos, things of that nature. Like, there's a lot of harm that can be done on the internet to, again, a young, impressionable audience that we got to take into consideration, right? So, again, I pose a question. What is the middle ground? What is the middle ground that can be met to see to it that we don't shun that younger demographic, again, of children ages 16 and younger? What do we have to do to see to it that they can still have access to these social media apps? Again, Australia has already taken matters into their own hands and has taken away, again, these were young 16-year-olds, if I can get back to that screen that showed all the major platforms. These are all the big guns. YouTube, no Instagram, no TikTok. What? Can you imagine? How do you explain to your teen, 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old that TikTok is no longer? Instagram, YouTube, right? These are platforms that I spend a lot of my time on as an adult, of course, right? But at the same time, of course, as an adult, I'm aware of the things that one could come across on all of these platforms: TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, Twitch, of course, especially these streaming platforms. Like, I'm aware of the things that are maybe not so great that you probably don't want your 16-year-old or younger child to be witnessing on these platforms. So again, at the initial news, at the initial, hearing of this news, I did think this was a great idea. Until we get some protocols and other measures put into place, I did think this was a good idea. But then maybe, of course, hearing the younger lad, of course, these younger children, speaking on their behalf, I do think that, yeah, there is an element of, to not have access to these apps at 16, there is a bit of character development, I would argue, and just connection of or lack of awareness that you might miss out on at that tender age. Let's just keep it real. There's things that are culturally relevant. There's educational things on these platforms as well, too, that you might miss out on. So to not have access to any of those things until you're 16 does sound like a little bit of a bummer as well. So I am acknowledging that as well, too. So that's why I'm posing the question, what is the middle ground? Right? But nonetheless, of course, those are indeed my thoughts. I encourage you to share your thoughts down in the comment section below. As always, the likes, the comments, and subscribes are all greatly appreciated. I will catch you guys on the next one.